Were they believing the Lord before the Red Sea was split?
Yes.
I don't think he, you know what, on some level though, I don't think he gave them the opportunity to.
I don't
At the first. Because first of all, they had one impenetrable barrier, the sea. And then he took the cloud by day and the fire by night, and he moved it and interposed it between them and Pharaoh's army. So they really had no place to go. There was really no way for them to actually make a decision right there. He actually left them with no decision and said, no, stand, and really didn't give them the option to do anything else, but stand and watch the salvation of the Lord. You know?
Okay, hold
What
on.
does it say at the end of chapter 14? This is after they went through. They saw the...
Yep. Yeah, it says, when Israel saw the great power which the Lord had used
Hold
against the
on.
Egyptians.
We aren't there, y'all. I know you are trying to make a point, but hold on. We're not there. I'm making strides here. Oh, you're right.
They believed in the Lord.
Right.
Prior to that, they did not believe in the Lord.
I disagree. I think that they did believe prior, and they did believe then. The difference is that now they fear the Lord. This is the first mention of anybody fearing the Lord at the end of 41. It's not the first mention of them believing in the Lord. So, yes, ma'am.
Just quick. From faith to faith, the just shall live by faith. We know that our faith grows as we experience and learn and grow in our spiritual walk, right? So they did believe, or they wouldn't have put the blood on their doorstep, on their doors. So they believed.
Right.
Did they believe enough to go through the Red Sea? Well, no, but that was part faith. So from faith to faith, the just shall walk by faith. They were started their journey, and then they had enough faith to follow him to the Red Sea. They didn't have to follow the cloud. They were out in the wilderness. They could have been like, woohoo, we're off on our own and go off somewhere, but they followed him to where he led. So that was faith. But so they did believe, but just not. You know what I'm saying? Not. It
Okay.
grows. There we go.
Yeah, it's there again. It's we can get to the point where we can say, okay, well, I've got enough faith to know that my shoes aren't going to fall off right now.
Well, for 400 years, they've been crying out to the Lord for salvation, to take them out of there, free them. So they believed in the Lord.
Some did, yeah.
Nobody was crying out, they were crying out for him.
There again, it comes back to, they believed the Lord all the way to Sinai. Then Moses disappears for 40 days and they decide to make their own God. How much faith did that take? You know what I mean? And did they still believe in Yahweh? Did they still believe in God? Some of them sure did. I mean, Aaron, he was the priest. Yet he's the one that crafted it. Now, did he do it out of a fear of death, or did he do it out of just, okay? I don't know. I wasn't there, so don't ask me. But I'm just making the point, is that they did have to have some type of belief system to keep that going. So, now y'all ruined it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so we'll keep going. Dry ground. Okay, let's go to the dry ground part. So they walked through the Red Sea on dry ground. They're in bondage, and now they're free. Bondage, freedom. And all they had to do was walk across this river, right? That's the only thing they had to do? No, it wasn't the only thing they had to do. But it speaks to, is this something that's given? Were they given the opportunity to do it? Yes. Look, we can make qualms about, well, the cross is this, and then it was a tree, and then it was a cross, and then it was a tree, and then it was a cross. I wasn't there, I don't know. I'm just making the point, though, that what happened here is that there is an obstacle that had to be given access to a way out of it. And that's what Yeshua was for us. And when he does say, stop, stand still, and watch the salvation of the Lord, he says, watch the Yeshua of the Lord.
Amen.
This is what he gives him. He gives them away from death. This is death over here. What is going to happen if they stay on this side? They will die. They're new people when they come over here, aren't they?
The right side, at the time, was an unknown.
Absolutely. This one here.
All they knew was that side.
They did know this. They did know the old things. They knew the darkness of it, but that's why they even said, but hey, we can sit by the flesh pots and still have water. You know? May have been miserable, but we could have drank something.
When you talk about death, I mean, it is important because it points out that the whole idea is when you die to yourself and he becomes your head, then you become free.
Right.
While you're still alive to yourself, you're enslaved, you're in bondage, and you're dead.
You're right.
Yeah.
Somebody had to die here, though, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a price.
There was a price paid
Yeah.
so that they could live, so that there could be new life. Because what would have happened if they had gone to the land of Canaan and faced all these people without any faith? They'd have been wiped out there too, right? I mean, we know that. They would have been wiped out. We know that when they didn't have enough faith to listen to God completely about not taking the idols of the land, what happened? 36 people died. And when they hadn't lost a battle yet, 36 people died and they were chased with a tail between their legs. And all that was just a little bit of faith. It was like, hey, God's going to stand up for us. You know what? He may have said this, but he won't care about this.
Doesn't mean that to me.
Right, it doesn't mean that to me. Yeah. Anyway, so this is what's going on here. There's life over here. There's light over here. There is no darkness now. Because guess what? Now it's like, wow. Do they realize that at this point? Do you think?
Very likely.
No, probably not at all. They're just kind of going, whew. And then, oh, man, God took care of them. And then it's like, oh, wow.
Let's
Thank
go on
you.
to the next test.
Yeah, well, but it was thank you. And you're right, there is more to this. And I don't want to screw up because what did he just do to Egypt? What did he just do to Egypt? Because he didn't just wipe out the Egyptian army. What did he do?
He destroyed Pharaoh. He destroyed his
What happens when there's a void of
his
power?
credibility, if you will.
Chaos. When there's a void of power, what happens? Chaos. What happens when there's no one to take care of a country? Somebody else comes in and takes over. He's just opened up Egypt to the same slavery that they just left.
Right, that's a great point.
Just open them up to it. And so they're going, can you see now why they might be fearing the Lord? I mean, I'm sorry, even the little ones are seeing, yes, sir.
I was going to make that point that the difference between the age groups, I mean, I look at like, sometimes it is actually easier for a young kid to see one thing and go, man, I'm convinced. Versus somebody who's old and going like, yeah, well, I've seen that, but I've seen a lot more times when it didn't work. You know, it's going to take a little bit more to convince me that, yeah, I should put all my faith into this thing here. Whereas somebody who's young, they're like, I know nothing else, but this is it. So why should I put all my faith there?
Everything you just said, I agree with to a point, except when it comes to religion or salvation nowadays. Because have you seen the statistics and the actual polls that are doing now, that now the generations don't care?
What are they getting? Are they really getting truth? No. So I'm not gonna.
I'm just making the point though that now it's
That's why I
like
question
the
those,
faith
that's
is, well, I have faith in God. I can do what I want.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I question that because they're not really being given any truth. Don't really. That was truth. That was undeniable truth.
Okay, but even when they didn't have that truth and they were in bondage, somebody was still believing.
Yeah.
Still getting passed down.
Yeah.
When we looked at the Judges last night, she was reading. She couldn't get through very much because I had her distracted. But she was reading through Judges, and it talked about this generation passed it on to this generation, and things were good. Things were good, and they passed it to this generation, and then the very next generation, nope, no good.
Yeah.
And then so God raised up whoever, and then they did good, and then the very next generation, nope, did no good.
As soon as
Well,
they
and
die.
even what's even more interesting is that you went all these generations where they didn't do any good, and then you got one that they did. I mean, it's almost, that seems almost more interesting that they, still could come back.
You know, it's interesting. I had a question last night. We were over at Jacqueline and Jesus' house, and he said, "Well, why are you interested in the youth? Why are you into the youth ministry thing?" I said, "Because I got little kids." And he said, "Okay." I was like, "Not enough?" I mean, because it's up to me to teach them, but guess what? I want that next generation coming up right now that's the youth to teach them and have influence. And I want to know that what they're teaching them is right. So that's what I'm saying here, though, is that when we look at this progression, we're going, the little ones and the older ones are going, whoa. I mean, my mouth would have been open and just, whoa. Now, it makes you question why it didn't take but more than a day, and they were already yelling at Moses going, "What did you do? Bring us out here to die?"
It's my favorite line.
Yeah.
Why weren't there enough graves in Egypt for us?
But that's what I mean, though. But the young ones and the old ones are seeing this. They're getting to walk this out. So, we're going to go on to Song of Moses in 15.
Oh. The Song of Solomon. I'm like, oh, okay.
So, first off, who thinks that Moses had some singing abilities? I wasn't there, so I don't know if it was American
Maybe he
Idol
could
or
sing.
what.
It was like Jim Neighbors or something like that.
He said he couldn't talk, but he could definitely sing, and he sang.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting in here is that he references something 3 or 4 times. What happens if something's referenced more than once? Got to pay attention to it, and if it's more than 3 or 4 times, it's important. You know, because I don't know about you guys, but this kind of repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. He says dry ground in there. How many times?
That's not where my notes.
I know. I look at the weird stuff nobody else looks at. That's all right.
What's really cool about the dry ground, just a side note,
Yeah.
is the way just doing this last year, looking at the Hebrew words, it's like desolate, barren. It's not a dam that the water just drained off of. It's like,
Yeah.
like here. It's like
Right. It's like West Texas.
dry ground.
Dry ground. And it's at the bottom of a sea.
Yabashah. Yeah, dry ground.
Just making the point, okay? He's mentioning this a few times here. He also mentions that you're going to dash the enemy to pieces.
3 times in 14 and once in 15. For your reference.
And then he keeps going on, and I don't know, in the reading that we had, it was like there were 3 people doing the song, but it doesn't tell me somebody else is saying this, so to me it was probably Moses this whole time.
This is Moses and the sons of Israel.
So, but they actually put out here, they stretched out thy right hand, and the earth swallowed them up. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold on the inhabitants of Palestina. Okay, and then he talks about the fear of the people and the fear of the people and the fear of the people. Is he prophesying over the people?
Yeah, but he's talking about Edom already being dismayed.
All the inhabitants of Canaan. I mean, this sounds like a prophecy to me. I don't think he was just happy doing a happy dance or something, but he was prophesying over the people, and he was giving them that reassurance that now you can stand up and know that you can go and face who? The Philistines. You can go face who? The Hivites, the Amorites, the Jebusites. You can go face all the ites. Because I just took care of it. The Lord God just took care of this. and you can now go do it. Because you wouldn't have done it before.
It's such a key. The unknown to them was known to God.
Right.
And we sometimes forget that. I know I do.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, and there again, I think some of it's the unknown of Moses too. Because did God tell them what was going to happen at the Red Sea? Before
No, I
he
don't
showed
know.
up to the Red Sea, did he tell them what was going to
I don't
happen?
remember God telling Moses.
Nope.
He just said, raise your staff.
Watch the south.
Watch the salvation of the Lord, right? Yeah.
Now, Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a trim. It's kind of funny, the sister of Aaron, but not the sister of
Yeah,
Moses.
right.
Anyway, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing ye unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horses and his riders shall be thrown into the sea. That's said 3 times in this psalm.
I got an answer for you from Miriam, I think. Because Aaron was the oldest.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's also interesting that he calls her a prophetess.
Yeah, so he's actually he's assigning her role.
She was in on the continuation of the word.
Because
God's word.
has Miriam been brought up in the story until now? Yes?
Yes.
Once. When she was little. When Moses was little. That's it though. That's all we know with
Oh,
this
yeah,
woman.
she hasn't murmured yet. I'm
She
sorry.
hadn't murmured yet. Well, she also though, he right here is establishing her role as a prophetess.
Right.
That's not a little role.
She was a witness since he was a baby.
Yeah.
She was a witness.
She was integral in his salvation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep going on. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
You were talking about the rod.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Moses had just seen God do miracles when he lifted up the rod with all the plagues.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew that God would do something miraculous in this situation.
You know what's funny is that Moses probably had the least faith out of anybody when God first talked to him. I mean, he's talking to a burning bush that will not burn. And it's talking, by the way, to him. It addresses him by name. And he's going, no, you gotta be wrong. How many times did he tell God he was wrong?
I don't talk well.
Yeah.
Why they're not going to believe me?
He told God he was wrong 3 times. He was like, you're wrong. Or maybe it was twice. Maybe it was only twice, but I know it was more than once. He told God, no, you're wrong, God. I can't do this.
Oh, when he said he could.
Yeah. And so he's taken this guy who's got probably the least faith at this point, and then he elevates him to this position, and now God tells him, this is what you're going to do. And when does Moses flinch? Not here.
But the thing was not Moses seeing himself as he couldn't do it. When he was saying that I can't do this, he wasn't really looking at God to see that God was going to do it at the time when he was talking about himself.
It was his faith in
It's
himself.
Sure.
that same pattern of faith, building faith.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was just thinking, it's interesting that God chose Moses because he knew Moses' heart. And so he knew when Moses was in Egypt that he tried to deliver the children of Israel in his flesh. And he ended up killing a man, and then he ended up, fleeing from Egypt. And so I'm sure that any amount of pride that he had at that point was killed in himself. And he knew he couldn't do it. Like he knew in himself, I can't deliver the children of Israel. And so when God came to him, I don't know if anyone's ever had a dream that's been broken before, but usually after that dream's broken, it's the last thing you want to, but you're like, no, that's not going to happen. And so I can imagine that Moses might have felt like that. Look, I can't do this, but God knew his heart. God knew he wanted them to be delivered. God knew that was probably one of the most important things to Moses. And so that's probably why God was so persistent with Moses, because he knew once he could get that fire, ignited again, that he could use Moses as that vessel. I think it's kind of a picture of that.
Okay. No, I like that. I'm making more of the point, though, that it's funny, it doesn't matter where they start out.
When you did that.
It doesn't matter where they started out. Didn't matter where Moses was when God came to him in the wilderness. It didn't matter. It didn't matter where the children of Israel's faith was, as long as there was someone that had the faith, right? Because Moses is the one going, calm down, God's going to take care of this. Hold on. You know, he's being that reassuring person. He's going, just wait. And so they come through. They sing songs. They sing praises. She's made a prophetess. Okay, very next thing that happens. Murmuring. The second murmuring. Right. And these probably are, I mean, you know, I don't have a timeline, guys. I don't have the timeline on this. But let's just think about this. They walk a little bit further and then...
3 days in the wilderness.
Yeah, they had to get to the mountain in 3 days.
Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water.
There you go. So 3 days later,
Right.
they've just seen the entire Egyptian army decimated. They've seen Pharaoh turn decimated. He's seen their deliverance happen. And then, I'm getting a little thirsty in here. Where are you, God?
They're coming down from the high of the last couple days. Everything has happened. It's like, wow, that was great. Oh yeah, they're for a day or two they're talking about it still, and by the third day it's kind of, okay, it's back to like, well, we're out here.
Yes, ma'am.
Just walking around.
We've talked before, weeks before, whenever God gives a promise, a lot of times he allows a contradiction. And he told them, I'm going to take you to a land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
Well, we can't even find water.
Right.
Where's this promise that you gave us?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It also points to how fickle they are. Real fickle. I mean, they're going, come on, God, you can part the sea, but you can't give us a drink?
But no, wait a second. I don't know if I would go that far.
I would.
If you stuck me 3 days out in the middle of the desert, and I'm sorry, but I would be starting to worry about, well,
They had
are we going to get water anywhere?
Hold on, though.
Did they
What's
take it all
been
with
given to them?
Well,
The
they
Comforter, right? Hasn't the
that's
Comforter
leading-
been given
that's-
them?
That's leading them further into the desert.
Haven't they been given comfort?
They've been given their freedom.
They've
Mm-hmm.
been
They're
given
patient with it.
their freedom, but they haven't been given water to this point.
They're
Yeah,
not
but-
working like they were.
But no, I'm just saying, those are, again, he's playing on their most basic fleshly needs now. First one is water. And he's testing them right from the most fundamental level now. The first thing you're gonna murmur about is water, because I know you need it.
Walking around an air-conditioned house for a day, you're gonna be thirsty. Walking in the desert for 3 days without water is gonna be real thirsty.
You're right, but here's what I'm getting at, though. We're talking about, let's make sure and not categorize that God was making them murmur. Let's make sure we're not saying that.
He's not making them murmur, he's testing them.
Okay,
That's all.
right. But what does he want from them? What?
I was getting tired. Because everything you're saying, he was testing them, and we focus so much on the fact that they failed the test, rather than saying that there was the option for them to be still and know that he is God and say, Lord, can you deliver us? Instead of whining about it, just saying, Lord, will you? And asking and having that faith that if we ask, that we will receive.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get at. Yes.
Another question just popped in my head, because it's after the water was made sweet, this is there the Lord made a decree and law for them, and there he tested them. But I was looking in verse 22, when he led them from the Red Sea, went to the desert of Shur. For 3 days they traveled in the desert without finding water. Does that mean they were looking for water on their own? Like,
Maybe.
ooh, we gotta go find water now.
Yeah.
Or was it not, it should have been, okay, God, where do you want us to go? What do you want us to do? Just a thought.
And,
Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I just wanted to say that, like you said, to go from, to Subway from Allentown, just down, they've just seen God perform this really humongous miracle. And for them, I think they thought when he was going to free them and take them back to the promised land, it was just like getting on a bus and they were going to be there the next day. So then when they start to realize, well, it's not going to just leave that fast, it's going to take a little longer than we thought, then I think that's when they started to, disintegrate as far as their faith and their, groaning and all that, and they started
Okay, I'm gonna make a point to what you just said though. How many of you have moved into a new house? One that you were excited to move into? How long did it take before you were going, oh crud, I didn't see the cobwebs over here? Or, oh, I didn't see this baseboard was loose over here. Or, man, this door's got a hole in it. I didn't even know that. There's flies coming in from here. What were you just given? You were just given something you wanted, right?
Reality check? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you were just given something you were wanting. It was something you wanted. It was something they cried out for. But now they're starting to see all the flaws in it. Or what they consider flaws. What is he wanting them to do? Hold on.
Okay.
What is he wanting them to do?
Rest.
He's wanting them to go, God, whatever you say we'll do. He said, he lays it out here in that, how long are you people not going to follow my ordinances, my statutes? I'm going to make these ordinances for you. Because he says here, when he threw the 25, and he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, in which when he had cast into the water, I kind of think it was sugar cane, but anyway, whatever. The waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance. And there he proved them. He's just saying, guys, you got to ask. I mean, what does this say? What does he want them to do?
I think in contrast, he's looking for Abraham and Isaac again. Going, it wasn't until Abraham was just fine, ready to plunge the knife right into his son, and boom, then the angel said, okay, hang on, you haven't questioned this whole thing, neither you or I have questioned this whole thing and have had faith all the way through this process. This is what I'm looking for. And they knew that.
Right.
I mean, they had that example.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like today. God wants us to believe that anything that we ask in His name, we shall receive. Even at those times, God was showing them miracles after miracles after miracles. Still, they did not have the faith in Him that He will deliver them, that He will feed them, that they wouldn't have to do without. It's like today, He constantly tells us, if you trust me, just ask Him. If we don't ask, how are we going to receive?
Okay. I'm more in line with what you're thinking. But I'm going to make this point, though, and I lost it. Yeah, it's not there anymore. Yes?
Can I just read real quick?
Yeah, read it.
Okay. Because you said, what does he want them to do? If you will carefully obey the Lord your God, do what is right in his eyes, pay attention to his commands, and keep all his statutes. I will not inflict any illness on you. I inflicted on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then, so he brought them, they murmured, he gave it to them. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there by the waters.
Okay, that's the point I was trying to make.
She's
Sorry.
your wife.
I know, she knows me here. Thank you.
It's not surprising.
Is that how many consequences have they had to suffer so far?
None.
Not one. But he's testing and proving them, right? I mean, he just said that. So he's testing and proving them, testing and proving them, testing and proving them, and he's wanting them to just follow my words. Have faith. Do what I ask. I'm laying this stuff out, just do what I ask. And then he actually lays out the blessing. Because what she just read was, and I will make sure that you don't get any of the diseases that the other nations get. It's not the curse of the diseases. It's I'll make sure and give you the blessing because I'm your healer. So he's giving them the blessing so far.
He's wooing them.
He's wooing them. You're right. Definitely wooing them. Yet they're still turning up faithless.
I wonder also if he was, right after the 10 plagues, they believed enough to put the blood on the door.
Yes.
Right after the Red Sea, will they believe to go through? Oh, you parted the Red Sea, we're going to go through. Okay, well, let's see how much you believe if I don't do anything for a few days.
Right.
Let's see what happens.
How long does this last?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Maybe they forgot to say thank you for crossing.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good point.
You know,
How many, all right, there again, parents.